right. So I just want to record it so I can put it on there for people who can't be in this meeting so they can still get the full shebang. So, all right. So we are going to talk about single family analysis. And then, obviously this is the first one we've done. So kind of want to start with something where I feel like everybody should start in single family, and kind of figuring out how to run your numbers. And then I want to leave at least 15 minutes at the end, if not more than that, for just general question and answer on anything real estate related. Honestly, it does not matter to me what it is. It can be anything and anything. Cincinnati real estate, doesn't matter. So I am going to get right into this and share my screen. And I am going to be only using tools that you guys all have access to. So I will not be using the MLS to cheat and to pull comps, which is easier, but we're going to do it on Zillow instead. Does anybody have a property? We're going to do single family BRRRR analysis, right? If you can do a BRRRR analysis, you can do anything else. This is definitely the hardest. Does anybody have a property that they want to analyze, or do you want me to just select one randomly? Oh, Aubrey, you got one?
There is one. I mean, it's in Hamilton. It's a single family,
I love Hamilton.
1 bed, 1 bath, little bungalow.
Okay, we're gonna make this hard, aren't we?
It's not on the market. Does it have to be on? Sorry.
Yeah, I need it to be on the market.
Okay.
That way we can all see what the pictures look like.
I just realized that. Sorry.
You got anything else in Hamilton though? I'll take anything in Hamilton. You want in Hamilton?
I mean, there's one on Millville.
Okay. Let's go to the good part of Hamilton.
That's right down the road from where I live. It's pretty nice.
Oh, I didn't mean that wasn't good. Okay.
Joking. I mean, there's a bunch going on right downtown because of Spooky Nook and all the new development going on. So
yep. This is the area that I like, because Spooky Nook is right here.
Yeah.
Like right in this area. So let's find something that okay. A 3-bed, 2-bathroom. Perfect. 1,200 square feet. Kind of already redone for the most part. Whatever. We'll use this. Okay. We'll just assume that it's in terrible condition. All right. So 3-bed, 2-bath in Hamilton. So obviously you guys have a property you're looking at. It could have come through me. It could have come, even off market. You can still go to Zillow and do the exact same thing. And then essentially what we're going to do first is we got to figure out all of our numbers. So if you guys are familiar with the emails and stuff that I send out, they've all got their format and everything. What is the most important number when it comes to analyzing a BRRRR deal? The one most important number. Everybody's muted. It's fine. Sean, you know the answer. I know you do.
Is it ARV?
It is ARV. Yeah. See, I can see it in your face.
No, it was Melissa, but she's muted, so I get all the credit.
From the other room. Yeah. Right. So ARV is hands down the most important number, because that's what, if you're getting a hard money loan, that's what they're going to base your financing off of. It's what matters when you go to refinance. So we have to figure out, okay, if this house is fixed up to, rental standards, we don't need to go top of the market, right? It's not flip standards. If it's rental standards, what is my ARV going to be, right? So let's take this 3-bed, 2-bath here in Hamilton, and we're going to, first off, pull up the listing and everything. We're going to look through and kind of figure out what the current condition is. And okay, this one is pretty much like 100% rent ready to go, right? So we're going to go in here and we got to find some comps first. So the way that I like to do comps in Zillow is if you literally come up here and you just duplicate your tab, it'll open up a new tab. It'll pull up that exact same listing, but if you exit out of it, it will, okay, I don't know why it's pulling New Miami, but it will give you a boundary in which that house is located in. Okay, so even you guys in California can figure out, okay, this is an equivalent area, right? I don't know why it's pulling up New Miami. It should be pulling up Hamilton, but regardless, if you Let's see if I can pull it up again. Okay. It should pull up the exact same area in there. Of course, this one's not going to while we're recording a meeting. That's okay. Yeah, it's just going to pull up New Miami, which is technically still Hamilton, but not the exact area. So it'll pull up the boundary, and you want to try to stay with comps within that boundary, right? So let's say it pulled up the city of Hamilton over here, whatever. What you're going to do next is you're going to go through, you don't care what's necessarily for sale. You want to figure out what the sold comps are going to be. So we're going to go sold. Everything's going to turn yellow. Price you don't necessarily need to mess with. Beds and baths. So we're looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, go 1.5. And then we're looking at a single family house. So we don't want any of that. We only want to comp single family houses. You can come over to the more section. You can sort by square footage, lot size, year built, whatever, any of that stuff. If you have a ton of comps, we can get a little bit more granular, but we kind of want to start wide and then narrow it down to comps that makes the most sense. So sold within, you want to start within the last 6 months. If there are literally like no comps, you can go out to a year, but just keep in mind that those comps are less, you can be less confident in those comps, especially with the way the market is going. 12 months ago, this year, things were still red hot and interest rates were still like 3%. All right. So we're going to scroll into the neighborhood and we should be pulling up. I'm going to use exact match on bedrooms because we got too many things here. So this house is literally like on the same street. It's like right down the street from there. 3-bed, 2-bathroom, 1,200 square foot. It's like, it might even be that exact house. It's right next to it. 226 serial. 519 North D Street. So we've got one that's at $165,000. So we're like, okay, we can probably be at least $165,000. And what I like to do is look in here for the most expensive properties first and kind of start your way down and figure out, okay, let's look at this property. Okay, this one is on Northeast Street, which is right next to Spooky Nook, and it is 2,000 square feet. So it is a lot larger than the one that we're looking for. It sold for $230,000. It's not really updated. It's not bad. It's just a lot of wood trim, but it's a nice house. I would say that our ARV is probably not going to be this high because our house, we can't add that much square footage to that house necessarily. And then we come in here and this one's at 215. And of course it has no pictures, but it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,300 square feet. We're super, super close because our house, if you click back here, is 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet as well. So we should be getting somewhere close to, that house is basically already at ARV, which is fine. It's basically a rent-ready comp. We've got one at 210, which is another ranch style, 3-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,300 square feet, sold for 210. But these are also all just slightly closer. So knowing areas and stuff is relatively important, but obviously you can't know every area when you live in California, so or out of state. You're like, I have no idea. That's what I'm here for, is to help you with that stuff. And with this being closer to Spooky Nook as opposed to way out here, you're gonna get a little bit different ARV wise, right? So I'm gonna guess that the reason that they priced this house at $165,000 is because of this house basically on the same street sold late last year for $165,000. We don't know what the inside looks like or anything, but it is like next door to this property, right? It is essentially exactly the same spec. So we said, hey, we can do just as good as these people can, right? And it's literally next door. What appraisers will do when they have basically a hierarchy of what they prioritize, and distance to the subject property is number one, right? So if a property is next door and it has the same bedrooms, bathrooms, that kind of stuff, it provides a lot more weight than a property that's 1.5 miles down the road. Even if it's in the same zip code in the same city or anything like that, they're going to basically start a radius super close. Obviously, bedroom bathroom count is going to matter. If there's not a whole lot of comps, they can subtract dollars for additional bedrooms, additional bathrooms, things like that. That gets really difficult because it's very area dependent on how much a bedroom adds, how much a bathroom adds in actual total value, right? It could be $10,000 or it could be $100,000, right? If we were looking at a $4.8 million house, okay, well, an extra bathroom probably adds $100,000, right? But it's definitely not going to do that in Hamilton. It might add $20,000, right? So that's probably where they price it, is because this house is super close. This isn't necessarily the greatest example, but close enough on there. Who has questions on how I kind of determine ARV on Zillow? No questions. Makes perfect sense. For sure. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So the second most important number after, so we have our ARV, right? $165,000, right? Is what we can get this house reappraised for, essentially, right? You know, conservatively, let's maybe we input it into our calculator or something like that, 165 or $160,000, right? We feel like the market's going to drop a little bit. And that is very, very dependent on everybody. So if you feel like the market is going to go down, well, you're going to work that in your numbers. If you're extremely optimistic, you feel that the market's going to go up, maybe you're a little more aggressive with your ARV, right? I tend to lean a little bit more on the conservative side because I have to protect your guys' investment, right? So anytime I give you an ARV, I'm going to be pretty confident in that ARV, right? And I might give you a range that says, you know, maybe you get 275 for it, you know, maybe you get 250 for it. You know, I'm going to run my numbers at 250 though, because I know that I can get that, right? And I don't want to be 20, 30 grand deep on this refinance and leave a whole bunch of cash into it and be done with investing for the rest of the year, right? You aim to be a little bit more conservative on there. Okay. So once we figure that out, we have our ARV, which is our main number, right? The other numbers that go into there are purchase price and rehab, right? So on this particular property, let's assume everything we see here is straight from the 70s, right? You're just like, oh God, this is not going to work. It's a full cosmetic rehab. So the way that I like to estimate rehabs is, if it is just taking single family houses in general, right? If we are doing a full cosmetic rehab of a single family property, rental grade, I will start minimum at $30,000 in rehab, right? Very, very, very rarely is there going to be anything less than that, right? It's going to basically almost be rent ready, but just, you know, you got a ridiculous deal on the purchase price and you only got to put in, you know, 15, 20 grand or something like that in there. But $30,000 on purely cosmetic things on a rental grade, I start at 30,000, right? If we're doing first time home buyer flip grade or like an A or B neighborhood rental grade, you're probably going to start at $40,000 because you're going to have to step up those finishes, right? You can't do rental grade everything. You're going to have to, you know, you're going to have to do nicer countertops. You're going to have to do fancier light fixture, you know, something like that. And that goes for probably midterm rentals and short-term rentals as well. Something that's got to be slightly elevated, but I'll generally start at $30,000 minimum. For every single capital expenditure that I see in the pictures that I'm like, ooh, that looks pretty old, I'm going to add $10,000 to that rehab budget. I'm not saying that it costs $10,000. So if your HVAC, let's say your HVAC is 20 years old in this property, right? Add $10,000. So now we're at a $40,000 rehab budget. It's not necessarily going to cost $10,000 for a new HVAC. Probably cost $7,500 or something like that, depending on the size of the house. But if it needs a new HVAC, chances are it probably needs some other stuff too. So we're going to kind of build in some buffer in there because we've gone above cosmetic, right? If it needs a new roof, I'm going to add 10 grand. So that would put us at $50,000 rehab, right? What other capital expenditure type things do you guys look at when you're looking at properties that you're like, oh yeah, I want to make sure that this is good?
Like the plumbing.
The plumbing, you guys are going through this right now, aren't you? Yeah. The plumbing and everything. Absolutely. The plumbing is tricky though, because I don't have x-ray vision, right? I can't see in the walls, right? Now there are always signs. You get an inspection, you know, they can, moisture levels and this and that. You can look at the main stack, and like Sean on your house and everything, we knew that the main stack was, had an inch, a half-inch crack all the way down the entire thing, right? We're like, oh, okay, yeah, it needs the main stack and portions replaced and stuff like that. We didn't know that it needed like the entire house replumbed, right? It's hard to tell that, but if you see a main stack, that's one thing I look at. If you see a main stack and you're like, okay, that thing needs to be replaced, there is probably other plumbing, add 10 grand to your rehab budget, right? If you just had to do the main stack, that's like 7 something, to get all that kind of stuff done. And same thing with all your mechanicals, with electrical as well. So if you have to do, knob and tube mitigation is extremely common in Cincinnati. It's what we do all the time. And that's typically a $10,000 to $15,000 cost, right? And the way that we normally do it is we don't just mitigate it to the basement, we mitigate it through the entire walls, right? So we're trenching walls, we're taking things out, we are removing all the knob and tube in that entire house, right? Because it's just a massive liability. And with something like that, if it's a larger house, yeah, you can add 10 grand to your thing. You almost want to add 20 grand to your budget if you're going to be doing major electrical and stuff like that, because that can get skyrocket pretty quick on that kind of stuff. But those are the kind of things that I look at. So, let's say this house is a cosmetic rehab. It needs a new HVAC and a new roof. I'm going to send you guys an email that says, hey, I think this is about a $50,000 renovation project, right? $30,000 in cosmetic, $10,000 for a new HVAC system, and $10,000 for a roof. Right. So we have our ARV at 165,000. We have our rehab at 50,000. Right. And then when we go to refinance a single family property, we're going to have to leave in 25% in the deal. Right. You can get 20%, 25%, 30%. It depends on what interest rate and stuff like that you want. I typically will run 75% loan to value, which is leaving 25% into the deal when you do that. So the way that I generally calculate that stuff is you will want to take your purchase price minus your rehab. So I'm going to do it on my fancy calculator here. So ARV, not purchase price, sorry. ARV minus $50,000. So 165 minus $50,000. That's $115,000. Right. And then I will multiply that times 0.75 so that we can leave 25% in the deal. And if this was a perfect BRRRR, essentially not including any fees or anything like that, just rough numbers, I would be willing to pay $86,250 for this house. And that would essentially, you would leave all your, you would gain as much equity as you put into it. Essentially, right? So when you go to refinance, all the money that you put into it, you're going to get all that back out to then go take that and do your next property, right? Now, in this market, that doesn't always work, right? Unless you're finding your own deals off market and things like that. Like Aubrey, this area. If this house needed that much, it's not selling for 86 grand, right? Like what's this house selling for realistically? If it needed that much work, it didn't really look like this.
100, 120. It's crazy what they're going for in this area right now. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Like
what do you think?
We just closed one on Gordon, which is the backyard is the Spooky Nook parking lot.
Yeah.
He paid $120,000 for it. It's 2,000 square feet. It's 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, has a garage, parking alley access, Spooky Nook backyard, paid $120,000, but he's going to put in like $75,000 to $100,000 into that property, right? He paid $120,000 for it, and his ARV is probably closer to, 230, 250, something like that, right? He's almost going to set the mark with that property when it's done, but he's going to turn it into a short-term rental, right? Because the backyard is literally Spooky Nook.
That's what they're all doing with that whole section right there.
That whole section right there. It's like, yeah, you don't need to deal with the traffic in the parking lot. You can literally walk there, right? And you can house an entire sports team, right? That's what they do in Hamilton now. So yeah. But like on something like this, if it was a perfect BRRRR, you better have this property off market and locked up at 85 grand in order for you to have a perfect BRRRR. Let's say this property would probably go like Aubrey said, it would probably go for somewhere around $120,000, right? So right there, according to those numbers, I mean, you're essentially minus fees and stuff like that. You're going to leave in like 30 grand, right, into this property. We haven't even got to what it rents for yet, So this is why you kind of have to pick your areas. It's why I like the off-market stuff. We'll have another meeting about how you guys can find off-market properties and stuff yourself, because listing it on the market, you're competing with everybody, right? You are not getting a fire deal on market. It's just not going to happen, right? Unless you're like a wizard or I don't even know. It's just not going to happen. But in order for this to be a perfect BRRRR, you're looking at $86,000, call it $85,000, right? You're going to have, if you're doing hard money or whatever, you're going to have, $5,000 to $15,000 in fees and all this kind of stuff and everything on there that can kind of get ridiculous, but it is what it is. So, any questions about kind of determining a purchase price? No? Okay.
I have one question.
Okay. What's up?
My name's Amory, by the way. This is regarding the rehab. I guess I would like to know, like, where in the process would you pay like the rehab, like the people that are rehabbing the home, or I have no properties. I'm just learning.
That's okay. Yeah.
So I guess that's my question.
Yeah. So the way that we do things is, so I run the real estate side of the business. I think Brandy was on here a second ago. I don't know if she's still on here, but she runs the construction side of our business. So the way that we work is everything before you close, you'll deal with me, or Tony's on here as well. He's a new agent on our team. So you'll deal with him as well. And we will be your go-to people for while that property is in escrow, writing a contract, whatever, all your real estate related needs, and coming up with a rehab estimate, right? And we can essentially give you, a rough number on, hey, this is essentially what you're going to spend, right?
Okay.
Brandy will then, after you close that property, right? So let's say you closed this property, you paid $85,000. You're like, all right, I'm ready to go. And we told you it's going to be $50,000, right? You're going to close, and then I'm going to pass you off to Brandy, and she is going to go through there and walk it with our subs, with our different contractors and stuff like that, and start building you an itemized quote, essentially, right? We have a contract, we have people sign, we have retainer fees and stuff like that to kind of hold your place in line. We charge 10% of the total project as our project management fee to do all those things, manage your project and be your eyes and ears and everything on the ground here. But she's going to start sort of making that itemized quote. You're going to, go back and forth with her on what you want to do and this and that, and be as involved or as not involved as you want to be. And then send you that quote. You're going to sign off on the quote. You're going to do that. And then once everything's approved, we're essentially going to get in there and, hit the ground running. If you're doing a hard money loan, there will be a whole draw process and all this kind of stuff, which we can kind of help walk you through, as well as your lender can help walk you through, especially if you use Liz, who's our main lender we go to. Because if you're using a hard money loan, they're going to require, you can get some funds up front and everything, which we always require. That way we can get materials, get the project rolling. And then as things complete, we can actually request for draws, send pictures, say, hey, the kitchen's done. We'd like $10,000 because the kitchen done now. And then they'll transfer it over to us and everything. If you're paying cash, it's way easier because you just send us the money once we send you a video or whatever. You're like, all right, cool, looks good. Here's 40 grand, keep going. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you for answering. Kind of makes more sense now.
No worries. No worries. No, I know you haven't worked with us yet, but you will learn for sure. But great question.
Thanks. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, I'll mute myself now.
No, you're good.
Okay,
anybody else have any other questions on this stuff? All right, sweet. Let's see what this thing would rent for. Okay, so determining what things rent for, in my mind, is kind of just an art, and I can kind of just pull it out of my head, knowing on areas, looking at properties and stuff. The best way for you guys to do that is still going to be on Zillow, except for we're going to come back here and go for rent. And it's going to load, hopefully. No. There we go. Okay. So there's just not a lot of rentals in a place like this. So this one's meant for rent for like a year, I swear. Every time I go to analyze something in Hamilton, this property pops up. And you want to look, it's available August 7th, 2023. So they are very, very much so pre-leasing it. I'm not going to use that as an example, even though it's like the only one that pops up. Let's go like over here. It's a little closer to this one. So we got a 2-bed, 1-bath house. It's 576 square feet. Woohoo. We know rentals always go off bedrooms, right? Section 8 only goes off the bedroom count, right? If you have a 2-bedroom, if you have a 2-bedroom that's 3,000 square feet, it rents the same as a 3-bedroom that's 500 square feet in Section 8. Like it's just how it works. We are not always renting Section 8. However, it gives you a very, very, very good starting point to kind of determine what your rents would be, right? If you're ever curious what the Section 8 rent is, you can just Google it, Section 8 rent rates. And then you're going to scroll past the ads and go, it's huduser.gov 2023. And you're going to click here for fair market rents, FMRs, for 2023. We're going to go into Ohio. And I'm just gonna go with Hamilton County. That's that's city of Cincinnati proper. And it's gonna pop up and say, you can see the rent, how they raised rent from 2022 to 2023 as well. So this is a 3-bedroom property. Let's just say it's in Hamilton County, whatever. They don't change that much. So we know that Section 8, we could rent it out for $14.64 a month, right? So chances are we can probably get a private person to also pay similar to that, right? I would argue kind of in this area, because it's a single family house. So a 3-bedroom apartment, a 3-bedroom single family house, a 3-bedroom 20-unit apartment building, right? They are all going to rent the same Section 8, right? Single family properties will always, always, always garnish a premium in rent, because that's like the cream of the crop for a renter, right? It's like owning a home, right? They're like, I have made it, right? I'm never going to own a home in my life, but I rent a single family house. Hallelujah. So I would argue that house, you can probably add, an additional, $100 a month or something like that. So we did one back in October of 21, a long time ago, up in Hamilton, super close to this house, and 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom, similar square footage and everything. That property rented for $14.50 immediately. Single family house. There's like no yard, no backyard, nothing. And you can see kind of what rents are doing over time. So I generally will say that 2 bedrooms and up will kind of go up $100 to $200 for like a 4-bedroom every single year, right? Where 1 bedrooms kind of go up $50 a year, right? And you can kind of work that into your calculators and your numbers and stuff like that as well. So for me, that's a comp that I can find, because I know it from doing it a while ago. Taking this 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, 576 square feet. It's available now. It's been sitting for a while. It's kind of off on a side street for $1,100 a month. You're like, shoot, I can do better than that, right? We renovated this house. We can crush this, right? We can do way better. We got 1150, 2-bed, 1-bathroom, 1,000 square feet. This actually looks like it's an apartment building. So this is like a duplex. So it's not a single family house, right? I know I can get more than $1,150 a month, right? We have one over here that's for $2,200 a month, 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 1,500 square feet. It's across Main Street. It looks decent, and probably would be similar to how we renovated our property. I think available April 25th of this year. Shoot, if I can get $22,000 a month in Hamilton for a 3-bed, 2-bath, I'm buying that all day. Like,
Mitch,
I know you
I'm
want to say
actually
something.
shocked at these numbers.
Right. Like to me, I'm like, okay, like I'm going to follow this one. It's been listed for 17 days. You know, that's not a long time for rentals. It typically takes 30 to 60 days to get a property rented. And they're typically going to leave it up for the entire time until somebody has signed a lease and moved in. Because you just never know what's going to happen, right?
I'll have to rent my house out and go move in with somebody.
Right? Like we rented our house in Fairfield, 2,600 square feet, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, totally redone, nice suburb and everything for $2,000 a month, like 2 years ago. I'm like, good Lord, is this getting this high? For me, that would just be like, I just can't use it as a comp. That just seems kind of ridiculous. We've got this 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, right across the river. It's 1,800 square feet. It's a single family residence. This is a really good comp right here, I think. If they get $19.95 a month, we should be looking at Hamilton more. Because your 1% rule, typically we say that you want to achieve the 1% rule. So you want to have, your purchase price, your rent should be 1% of what you bought it for. So if you bought it for $200,000, it should rent for $2,000 a month, right? This is like the 2% rule. We're all in at not what you bought it, what you're all in for, right? So if you're all in for $150,000, it should rent for $1,500 a month. In the case on this property, we'd be all in at like $130,000 and it would rent for like, $1,750 a month or something like that. Those are pretty good cash flow numbers. And I might be okay paying $120,000 for it, leaving $30,000 into the property if it's going to cash flow like that, because we're probably looking at somewhere between $300 and $400 a month in cash flow. Because with a single family property, all of the utilities are going to be in the tenant's name, right? So I'll go through, I use the BRRRR calculators for pretty much everything, and we'll go through and kind of analyze this now that we've sort of just gathered up all of our numbers. I'm going to use the Section 8 rent plus to be really conservative. So I'm going to say that house would rent for $1,500 a month. Okay. Some of these just kind of, I don't know. This is a 1-bed, 1-bath for $1,495. Like these rents seem kind of ridiculous. So we're going to go conservative. So now that we've gathered our ARV, our rehab, what we're willing to offer on the property essentially, and what the property can rent for, those are the 4 numbers that you're going to need to essentially start inputting things into your calculator. So if you don't have a BRRRR Pro account or Plus account, whatever they call it, you should definitely get one because it's useful for even just the calculators. They also do a bunch of webinars and stuff like that as well. I know most of you guys are BRRRR members, so we will go in here and use this. You can also obviously develop all your own spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff as well. But this is just easier. It's tried and true and tested, and it gives you a nice colorful report at the end of it. Let's do this. I don't even remember what our the taxes will be similar. We'll just put this address in. Don't do this. Put your actual address in. Let's just say property taxes are, Aubrey, what do you think property taxes are for in Hamilton? Probably like $2,000 a year, something like that.
Maybe a little bit less. But
That's, yeah. We'll go $1,800 a year.
Yeah.
And it's Butler County, so it's more Republican, which is just amazing. Hamilton County, you'd be at like $4,000 a year. Okay, so our purchase price, we said we're willing to pay $85,000 for this property, right? Let's do this as a perfect BRRRR right off the bat. After repair value of $165,000, purchase closing costs, you can do this in percentages. Let's say you're going to do hard money on this. So you can get a quote essentially from your hard money lender. People who have used Liz with us in the past, she will give you like exactly what it's going to cost. So a hard money loan on something like this, truthfully, you're probably going to spend $8,000 in closing costs on a hard money loan. Right up there. We said it's going to be $50,000 in repair costs. We're going to do a 20% down payment because we're going to use hard money. Your interest rates, let's say you're a first-time investor, you've never done a hard money loan before, your interest rate's going to be 12%. right? Unless you have like an 850 credit score or something like that. As you do more properties, your interest rate on hard money will go down. So it can get as low as about 8.5% on initial, but that you have to do at least 5 properties for most lenders, and then they consider you an expert. You're not an expert at that point, but they consider you that, and you get better interest rates. So there you go. I'm not really going to mess with any of that stuff. We'll just say it's all wrapped in the closing cost stuff that we did at the beginning. This is going to be hard money is always interest only as well. So you were paying down no principal while you have that loan. You were just paying them straight interest. All right, this is a single family property. It needs $50,000 worth of work, right? Let's say you want to take into account, so it's going to take 2 months to rent that property out. Let's say 60 days to get a good tenant in there, right? Let's say it takes 3 months to renovate it. Conservatively, it probably won't take that long necessarily, just depends, but let's be conservative, 3 months, and then throw another month in there for refinancing and appraisal and all this kind of stuff, right? So you can say 6 months, let's be super conservative and just say 8, right? Just God knows what happens. Rehab time, let's say the rehab is 3 months. Refinance, okay. So this is where you're going to use that loan to value. So you're going to use, we're going to do 75% loan to value. So you're going to take your 165,000 times 0.75. So your loan amount is going to be 123,750. Your interest rate, depending on how you refinance, if you're going to refinance conventionally, you're going to have to wait 12 months now. Thanks, Fannie and Freddie. Super amazing. It used to be 6 months, but now you have to wait 12. So what we've been doing is refinancing people into DSCR loans, which has nothing to do with your income. You can do it in as little as 3 months after owning the property. And you're looking at depending on your LTV, at a 75% LTV, you're looking at an interest rate of probably 8.5% to hold that property. It kind of sucks, but you can put it in an LLC, and as long as you work it into your numbers, you'll be all right. Refinance, let's say it's going to cost $7,500. They're kind of expensive too. Like when you go hard money in DSCR and stuff, you're just paying a ton in fees, and it just sucks. But if you want to leverage that money and do it this way and not have to wait and pay more interest to do conventional and stuff, it's kind of just what has to happen. So this is going to be a 30-year fixed rate. You can put in like your cap rate for your area, and like generally it's like 8. Total gross monthly rent. So we said this would rent, let's say $1,550 in rent. No other monthly income you can use if you have like coin washer and dryer and stuff like that on there. But this is not a multifamily property. You're not doing that. Electricity, you pay nothing because it's all in their name. Water and sewer, you pay nothing because it's also in their name. Garbage, you pay nothing. Monthly insurance is the only thing you're going to pay. Single family property, I generally will run it at $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. That's pretty standard. Vacancy percentages. This is where people can get hung up because they're like, well, I have literally no idea what I should account for. With a single family property, you have 1 unit that's vacant. If it's vacant, you get 0. You don't get, 3/4 in a 4-plex or, 2/3 or whatever in a 3-plex. You get nothing, right? So I will typically run a higher vacancy rate. Honestly, especially in Hamilton, it just depends on what kind of renter and stuff like that you get in there. And if you're doing Section 8, you better run a high vacancy because people just move, repairs and maintenance. If you just rehab that entire property, hopefully you know about what's wrong with it and what maintenance you have to do. So what I will do for this is I will generally put in 5%, kind of look at this number and be like, okay, $75 a month in general maintenance type stuff. I just rehab this entire property. That's probably pretty good. You can go higher, you can go lower. Capital expenditures. Let's say you chose not to replace the roof, but it's going to be bad in 5 years, right? So I would take the cost of a roof, right? Let's say that's, $7,500, and then divide that essentially by 5 times 12, which is 60. So 7,500 divided by 60, which means you need to save $125 a month to be able to pay for a new roof in 5 years. right? You don't have to do that. You can say, oh, I could just gonna come out of property, out of pocket and stuff, right? So let's say, whoops, I didn't do that. I hit enter before I meant to. Let's say you need to save that $125 because you just, you spent that $10,000 somewhere else in your $50,000 budget. So I need to save 8% in capital expenditures because I need a new roof in 5 years. Management fees. So the way that our property manager works is if you have 1 unit with her, it's 10% of gross monthly rents. As we put 10% right into here. If you have 2 units with her, 2 units to infinity units, it is 8%, right? So let's just say this is your first property. We're going to have 10% in management fees. So you're going to pay her $155 a month to do the ongoing maintenance on your, property management and maintenance on your property. Okay. That does not include getting at least fees and stuff like that, which is typically 1 month rent. You can choose to do these future assumptions and stuff like that. You can, let's just let's say it goes up 4% every year. Your property value goes up. This Hamilton, let's say it's like 7% because we got stuff going on, right? Spooky Nook's going in. We got some development, Annual expense growth, I would put like 0.5, like your expenses insurance, like that's it basically. Sales expenditure, I always put 7 because you're going to pay 6% 3% to the buyer's agent, 3% to the seller's agent, and 1% in closing costs typically. So when you go to sell it, you're going to have 7% in expenses. I really don't even look at those numbers because I don't want to know what the appreciation is or anything like that. Just to have it make me money over time. The cash flow works. So what it's saying on something like this is that our cash flow with all of those numbers and stuff in there would be a negative $101 a month. Don't sound too good because we put all of those expenses and stuff like that into there, right? Now you can go back and edit this and play with all of your numbers and things like that. But looking at this, maybe you go back and you look at, better rent comps and stuff like that. You're like, wow, these people are asking a lot, right? Like maybe I can get $1,800 a month for this property, right? And just kind of play with your numbers and adjust it. But from a gut kind of first go at this, it don't look too good. It'd be a perfect BRRRR, right? So you get all your money back out of it, besides the fees and stuff like that, essentially. But because you did that, you're not going to cash flow nearly as well, right? And to me, there's 2 different types of BRRRRs. There's your cash flow BRRRR and your equity BRRRR. Very rarely do you get both, and you're only going to get both if you're finding properties off market yourself. Honestly, where there's no wholesale fees, there's no competing with everybody on the market, and you can just get a slam dunk of a deal, right? But you're going to spend a ton of money and time and effort doing that, right? So it's up to you if it makes sense. This is definitely an equity BRRRR because it's a perfect BRRRR, right? We're taking out all the money that we put into it. And we're getting 100% of that money back to go invest it in something else, but we're reducing our cash flow, right? There are other properties where you're going to leave, $10, $20, $30,000 in equity in the deal, right? Because, the ARV isn't as high as you want to, but your cash flow is going to make up for that in general, right? If you don't get both, just don't buy that property. It doesn't make any sense. But you got to get one or the other. Either you got to get most of your money out, if not all of it, and have I'm okay with $100 negative a month, right? We did pretty conservative numbers and stuff. I get all my money out. Okay, that's not too bad, right? I want to own property in Hamilton. I love the area, whatever. Or you're going to cash flow it, right? And be like, all right, I'm gonna leave 20 grand in this deal. My cash on cash returns, I'm making $250 a month cash flow and stuff on here. That's also a deal I would buy. So there's kind of 2 different realms in there, unless you find some slam dunk and you get both. But that's typically how I think about it. Questions on the calculator, analyzing numbers, anything like that? Nothing. Sweet. I must be really good at this, or it's, 9:15 Eastern time, and we all just want to go to bed. All right. So that's how I will analyze a single family property, right? That's like basically step to step in tools that you have, right? And if you really get stumped, it's just like Mitch, I just can't figure out an ARV for this thing. Like, I just have no idea. Like, I can't find any comps on here, right? Send me an email, right? Be like, this is the property I'm analyzing. I will more than happy to give you my opinion on what I think the ARV is, right? I can go into the MLS and hit a button that says find comps, right? And it just pulls them up like that, right? It's a little easier. I will also go on Zillow though, because for whatever reason, I swear there's just more properties that show up on Zillow that are better comps than the MLS sometimes, because you get like for sale by owners and things like that as well, and you don't want to miss those. So I will generally cross-reference both, but that's what I'm here for. That's what Tony's here for, right? To give you our opinion, right? We are here to help you with all the facts and making the right decision to see if that property really makes sense for you, right? But we expect any of our clients to do this analysis first, right? You need to be analyzing properties on a regular basis so that you even know what a good deal looks like, right? If you don't do this all the time, you have no idea if a good deal smacks you in the face or not, right? Like, because I've analyzed 4 properties. I think I'm a pro at this now. No, you need to analyze at least 50 to 100 properties in a particular area, right? Or neighborhood or something like that to really know it like the back of your hand and not have to go through this whole thing, but kind of just know the comps off the top of your head, know what the rent rate is, right? And especially when you start buying properties in similar areas or the same area, you're like, well, I just rented this single family house I bought for $1,700 in Hamilton. I know that I could do the same on this one, right? And you start developing kind of your own comps and your own intuition for investing and stuff, which I've kind of synthesized through our clients and everything. And we're here to instill that knowledge on you. So we got a little bit of time left. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for right now. What kind of general real estate questions? What's bugging you? What do you guys want to know about? Sean, how's your flip going? How's it going?
It's pretty good so far.
Pretty good so far?
Yeah, just the draw process was, I think, the biggest thing that caught us off guard. But you get to that point, you can't find it out anytime sooner.
Yeah.
Melissa's here now too.
Yeah, well, I look so small. Yeah, that's something that like I don't want to say no one explained to me, but just something that didn't register in my brain, that when you do a hard money loan, and yeah, they're going to cover your rehab, but like you have to have that cash up front to get the ball rolling there.
Yeah.
And then everything had to be done and then you get the money back. And then they charge you to draw? Like,
Yep. They're just, fees are just ridiculous, right? Like they're like, oh, if you want to leverage your money, you're gonna pay us a lot, right? And it's $250 to $500 every single time you take out a draw, right? And you guys don't have to have the cash on standby to pay us first and then pay you guys afterwards. We always recommend that because it keeps your project moving at a much, much, much faster pace because, unlike most contractors, like I don't have a line of credit for $300,000, right? Like we don't front funds for clients because it's just way too much liability in ours. And we want to try to keep our prices low and everything. So in order to, we could do it on draw bases and stuff like that and try to just start with an initial draw, which they'll normally give us, but it's normally like 10 grand, right? We'll go through 10 grand at the beginning of a project in 4 days, right? Like you guys did it all in demo.
Yeah.
We had a hoarder house for those who don't know, and it was just full of trash.
I think 10 grand was the dumpster fees.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it was for your guy. We had the dumpster company on call. So yeah, that is definitely a thing to keep in mind, whether it's a BRRRR or a flip. You guys are doing a flip, but it's exactly the same thing on a hard money process. So yeah, absolutely. All right. Eric is raising his hand. I didn't even know you could do that on here. What's up?
Hey, thanks. Just a quick question. And was just wondering, how do, let's say we engage your service, right? Are you gonna find a deal, or we have to find our own deal and then we contact you, or?
It is all of the above, right? So I have clients who are extremely involved in sending me Zillow listings or even listings that I send them on the MLS. And they're like, hey, Mitch, we saw this deal and we think this would be good. What are your thoughts on it, right? So they're out there actively finding their own deals, right? They are typically the people who will get a deal, right? I know that you're alive and I know that you're breathing and you're sending me properties. We're looking at things, you're active, right? Now I will also send you deals through our systems as well. So we have a couple different wholesale partners that we use. So we get a lot of off-market properties as well. I would say probably 80+% of our business is off-market properties, just because it's so difficult to find a deal on the MLS right now. All of those you will receive in an email from us, and it will have all the numbers that we just went through in here, right? So either from me or from Tony, we'll go through and say, hey, we did the research on this. This is what they're asking for it. This is what the ARV is, what we think it can rent for, what the rehab includes, right? All of that kind of stuff on off-market and on-market properties that we analyze as well. So it is both, right? If you want to start wholesaling on your own as well, more power to you. I'm happy to help you through that process and be your eyes and ears and boots on the ground. Even if you find a wholesale deal yourself, I'm happy to represent you on that as well. I do that all the time. So, hey, Mitch, I have this wholesaler. I don't really trust them a whole lot because they can be kind of sketchy. Can you be me, my eyes and ears, and represent me on this property and go check it out and let me know what you think, just like with any other property. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely. What about those either there's something like on the auction website, right? Or maybe a foreclosure.
Yep.
Do you I don't know if you work with clients on houses for auctions or
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's foreclosure auction, there's tax sale auctions and stuff like that. Now, I'm not necessarily going to go stand on the courthouse steps for you and like bid on properties necessarily. I did that one time, and it was just to get the experience, not for a client or anything. But like auction.com or a lot of foreclosure sales, if you can even find any foreclosures, are listed on the MLS. So it's no different than a typical property. Most of the time they'll let you see it in showings and stuff like that. Sometimes you can't even get inside. And I swear that even those they just go for ridiculous prices. A lot of those auction sites, I will have to register you as a buyer, say that I represent you in order to get my commission and everything like that. But we can absolutely represent you on auction sites. There's just a lot of limited information that we can get from those. So a lot of those auctions, we can't go inside those houses, right? So you are bidding on those blind. I don't recommend it for a first property. Do a deal that looks worse on paper, but that you can actually be confident in your numbers. And, until you have $1 million in the bank or whatever, and you can afford to take an L on an auction property and take a flyer or whatever, definitely don't recommend doing that. But we're more than happy to help you gather information and everything on those properties.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. What else we got?
I have another question.
Okay.
I guess my question is, how will you, or how can we be helped, like as a new investor, to get like pre-approved and that process in order to start like the journey into investing on the banking side or the lender side?
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I should schedule an individual phone call for sometime this week. I will message me after this, and I'll send you my Calendly link, and we'll schedule a phone call, and I'll walk you through the entire process and onboarding and getting you started from beginning to end. But that's something we'll handle for you as well. We've got a bunch of different lenders and ones that we really trust and have done a lot of deals with, and we can start getting you down that path and ready to go. So, but you've taken a great first step. You jumped on this meeting and stuff, asked some questions, and that's all we can ask. So I'm all about teaching and helping people learn.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'll send you an email.
That's perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Matt, you got a question?
Yeah, a question about the refinancing piece. You mentioned this earlier, and I've been hearing this on various podcasts and whatnot, that you have to hold something for 12 months as opposed to 6 now before you refinance it. You alluded to the fact that you can get around that without a traditional mortgage. Yep. I'm also assuming that if you bring your own hard money and you're not really refinancing it, but you're financing it for the first time, you also don't have to wait that long, or does it? Sure. Or is that accurate?
You only have to wait. So Fannie and Freddie says if you hold a mortgage on that property or a loan of some, so if you did a hard money loan, that's a mortgage on that property, right? You have to wait 12 months now instead of 6 to refinance it. If you paid cash or in your case, a HELOC, that's cash, right? There was no mortgage on the property. There is no time period. You can refinance immediately if you paid cash for the entire property on there. So if you're doing hard money, you're going to have to either do a DSCR loan, which is debt service coverage ratio. It does all on the debt service coverage ratio on the property, which is basically your gross rents minus your purchase price. It's a whole thing, right? It has nothing to do with your personal income. It basically, you just give them what your credit score is and everything. They say, okay, this property makes, a 1.25% debt service coverage ratio. Yes, we're willing to refinance this, but you're going to pay a ton in fees. You're going to pay a ton in, your interest rate's going to suck. It's going to be between 7.5 and 8.5. Unless you pay a ton of points down or something like that, which can also be expensive. But you can refinance immediately also directly into an LLC as well. You can't do that with conventional because your LLC doesn't show any income. And those are based on, conventional loans are based on your own personal income.
That's right. Okay, good. Thank you.
Sweet. All right, we got 1 minute. What else do we got? Nothing. Did you guys learn something? Please tell me you learned something.
I'm going to ask you one more since we got 1 more minute.
Sweet.
LLCs. What are your thoughts on people doing LLCs versus just keeping it?
You have to. You
That's
have
what I
to
figured.
protect yourself.
But you don't do it right away because at some point, because it's easier to get a conventional loan in your name versus the LLC, correct?
Correct. If you start an LLC today, your LLC has no income, right? You cannot get a conventional loan in that. However, you can immediately buy it in your personal name. And I know people who at the closing table, is kind of ballsy, will immediately sign the paperwork to transfer on the deed, with the auditor site directly into their LLC, right? Now the lender, your conventional lender or whatever, can see that as, oh, well, hey, you sold the property, but you never paid us off, right? They can call your loan due. Have I ever seen that happen? No, not at all. People do that all the time, but it is a possibility. Typically, you can wait a period of time. You file the $65 charge or whatever to have it updated in the recorders, and now it's in your LLC instead of your own personal name.
So you're buying it personally and then you're flipping it into the LLC later.
Yep.
What's the easiest way to start an LLC?
Go on the Secretary of State website and the tax ID website, get your
Register
EIN and register. It's like $200.
That's what I thought. Okay.
I paid my CPA the first time like $800 and something to do that, and I was like, really? Like, why? Why did I have him do that?
I felt like we got a deal. We paid $500.
Yeah, you got a deal. Congratulations. Yeah, exactly. You got a friend.
But it's just a matter of getting on the state website and just registering it.
Yep.
Yep.
We can help you do that too.
It does have to be a name that's not already taken, so you have to be careful to search the name first, but it is a very straightforward process that's all on the internet, and you do not have to pay an attorney $500 and do it. And again, I felt like I was getting a deal at $500. So.
You got a better deal than Mitch got.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
My CPA is expensive.
I've just one-upped Mitch for the first time.
And I was just gonna chime in because we did ours. We didn't know for hard money you needed at least for the hard money loan that we had to have an LLC. Mm-hmm. So with expediting and doing it, right before closing, right as we're filling out all the other closing costs, I think with expediting it was like $285.
Yep.
So it's going to cost us $800 a year.
Yeah.
Because we're in California.
Yeah. And you guys had to name me as your agent. Woohoo.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Shout out to Mitch.
My address.
But yeah, it's pretty straightforward and you could do it within days. It's super easy now, all online. And and I think they actually have on the Secretary of State website, if I remember, I think they have an LLC search portion.
Yeah.
So you can just type whatever and search and see if it's registered already or not.
And you can do as if you wanted to, and what syndications and stuff will do in big investment properties is they'll name the LLC, 123 Main Street LLC, right? They'll name it the address of the property just to make it super easy on that. And there's an individual LLC for every single property because it's just a legal protection blanket that if you get sued on that particular property, typically they won't break the barrier, whatever it's called, right? And go seize your personal assets or other LLCs. They'll stay within that LLC, and all they can take is, that building, not your entire portfolio. But that kind of gets a little bit more complicated and later down the road. So
I have one more question regarding the LLCs.
Yeah.
So, I guess for like me as a starter, as a beginner investor, would I purchase under my name and then transfer it into an LLC once created?
All depends on what financing type you did. So Sean and Melissa's property, that was their first one, right? So they, with the hard money loan that they were doing and everything, they were required to put it in an LLC, right? They could have bought it under their own personal name. If you can purchase it under an LLC, you should absolutely do that, right? It protects all of your personal assets and liabilities, right? If a tenant sues you, they're suing the LLC. They're not suing you, right? And very rarely will the judge actually break that barrier and say, you know what, this goes beyond this property and this LLC. We're going to seize your personal assets as well because you're the owner of this LLC. It protects you. So you should have an LLC created, an Ohio LLC and everything like that. And depending on where you are, like they said, it can cost a lot of money to maintain it. But yeah, and you can only have 10 properties under your personal name under a conventional loan, right? So you get to your 10 max and you're like, oh crap, what do I do now? By that time if you have 10 properties, you should pretty much know what you're doing and have your LLC created and everything.
Okay, got it. So would you recommend, like, I guess, well, let's just say the 10 properties, would you recommend having multiple LLCs? Because I've heard of people saying that once you create one, you should create another one.
So what you'll have is, what you should create is a holding LLC. So it's an overlying LLC. So like for me, like Huffman Investments, right? And then I'm going to have 123 Main Street LLC. I'm going to have 456, West 8th Street LLC. And they're going to be the entities that hold within that holding LLC is typically how I would recommend. I have people who buy in one LLC and they buy multiple properties, right? Just know that if you buy multiple properties in one LLC and something happens, they have purview of all of those properties, not just one, right? So you are protecting yourself less, right? I know people say, oh, you should have 5 properties per LLC or 1 or 15 or whatever, right? But what you really need to understand is any of those properties, if something goes wrong with one of those properties, you get sued, it's all under that LLC and they can seize assets and this and that from all of the properties within that LLC. You're protecting yourself less.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Your accountant does very much enjoy, though, multiple LLCs.
Yeah. That's why you have to learn to do it yourself, because if you paid $500, $800 per LLC, it's like, God, it sucks.
Yeah, I filed one, so it's just for this live scan business that I'm starting, but yeah, so I'm in California, so I'll just look into that, but definitely we'll get in contact with you, Mitch.
Sweet. No, that sounds good. I'm going to have to do like an in-person California meetup or something like that with everybody.
Well, because over here in California, it's hard to just even get started, at least I find it difficult. So
yeah, it's what we do. I would say 80% of our clients are from California. Yeah. For sure. Like Sean and Melissa live in California.
I know that. I'm going to show my face just so you guys can
I could tell it was you by your name. We met her at a meetup here.
Oh,
there you go. Hi. Nice to meet you all.
Hey there. Yeah, it's I'm happy people actually shared their face in this meeting and it wasn't just me the whole time. But no, all good. Everybody starts somewhere. Like I said, Sean and Melissa were brand new investors. I mean, they were hardcore finding properties, making offers and stuff like that, which is not usual, right? But now they actually have a deal, right? And I knew that they were out there. They were hungry for their first deal.
So antsy, yeah.
They bought a hoarder house, and the dude literally died inside of it.
Oh my God. Well, congratulations to you both. I know it's our first seeing each other like this after you guys purchased, but gosh,
it's going well.
Thanks. Yeah, it's going really well so far. And yeah, just like you said, it's impossible here. So that's exactly why we went out of state.
Yeah, nice.
Yep. So, and that's what we do in the Cincinnati area right now. We're expanding our real estate and construction business, Indianapolis, Northern Kentucky, Columbus, Dayton, throughout the Midwest and everything, exactly for you guys. We just want to be able, you guys don't necessarily care where the heck it is, right? It's out of state. That's all that matters, right? You just want the deals and the team. Yeah.
The numbers, as long as the numbers work. And Mitch and Co have been nothing but spectacular. So it's
Okay.
awesome.
Well, I'm glad I joined, so looking forward to it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Any last questions before we jump off?
I think we're good.
I think we're good. All right, sweet. Well, great first meetup. So we will do this every Tuesday at this time. Next week we're going to talk about multifamily. Woohoo! It's going to get way more involved. It's way harder. Single family. You should start in single family. This is easy. Multifamily, commercial, state of the market. If you guys have a suggestion, like, hey, Mitch, can we go over this? I'm really struggling this right now. Let me know. I will fit it into the schedule. I'll throw it in there. Super informal. Again, I just want to make sure you guys are having your questions answered. And we will also do this once a month on Saturday afternoons, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. California time. If you guys can't make the Tuesdays. So, and we'll kind of just keep going with topics and stuff like that, and they'll all be recorded. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank
No
you,
worries.
Mitch.
Night.
Nice seeing you.
guys.
Yeah.
Good
Good night.
Bye.